Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 7th Powering Business with Blockchain webinar presented by Avalanche. I can't believe it's the 7th one already. Today, we're really excited to welcome our partners from TYB, also known as Try Your Best. My name is Sochil Ivory. I'm the head of growth marketing for institutions and enterprise at Avalanche, and I'll be moderating today's session. If you're new to our monthly series, Powering Business with Blockchain is our monthly webinar where we invite our partners to showcase what they're building on blockchain, specifically on Avalanche. And the goal of the series is to help you understand the value that blockchain can potentially bring to you as a business or as a consumer. And today it'll actually be covering both. So to set the stage a little bit and to give some background for the people who might have missed it, Try Your Best is an Avalanche-powered community management platform that enables brands to engage and reward their fans for taking valuable actions. And by doing so, they help brands turn their community into their biggest growth channel. Last year, TYB launched their white label solution, which already major consumer brands have been using, such as Juneshine, Figlia, and many more, including Topicals, which is Sephora's fastest growing skincare brand. And then in April, we had another exciting announcement that came out and another milestone. The TYB Shopify app came out, which allows Shopify's millions of merchants to leverage TYB's platform. So without further ado, we'll just start with some quick intros. John, if you maybe want to start.
Sure. Thanks, Soch. It's great to be on another Powering Business with Blockchain. Ty, Brianna, always good to see you both, and excited for this conversation today. John Nahas, Vice President of Business Development at Alva Labs, supporting the growth of the Avalanche ecosystem, oversee the 6 verticals of the business development team: institutional capital markets, enterprise, which is existing businesses, wallets and exchanges, NFTs, gaming, and DeFi. So with a focus of growing the Avalanche ecosystem, users, transactions, and applications.
Thank you, John. Ty, if you want to go next.
Yeah, of course. I'm the co-founder of TYB, started about 1.5 years ago. And prior to that, spent 8 years building in the direct-to-consumer space, a brand called Outdoor Voices. And really that experience informed the toolkit that we've created with TYB for many reasons, but the kind of headline is, at Outdoor Voices, we had this super engaged community. Community was our moat, and it became our most productive and valuable growth channel. And so really excited about this toolkit, really creating a better business model for brands that are structurally reliant on ad platforms today, and believe in this future where brands essentially make their community members, their customers, an extension of their team. And so excited to get into it. And Brianna, go ahead.
Awesome. Good morning or good afternoon or evening for everybody. Thanks, Soch and John, for having us. My background, I come from the brand building world as well, but worked with a lot of the big guys. So started my career at Walmart, co-founded the Gap Inc. Innovation Group, worked at brands like Banana Republic. I'm a recovering management consultant, so spent a lot of time inside major consumer brands like L'Oreal, Chanel, Avon, and helping them think about digital strategy. More recently, for all my gamers out there, I joined a gaming company and helped build that, scale that from private to public. For those of you really deep into gaming, we were essentially SDK platform that enabled developers to have fiat reward payments inside their games. So for me, combining that brand experience, understanding real brand problems to solve, and then thinking about engagement and gaming and commerce when bringing that into TYB to help brands, consumer brands, really think about gamified loyalty to enable their community building and make that a growth channel.
Amazing. Really excited about having you both because you seem to have such a different background, but it makes a lot of sense, I think, in the bigger vision of TYB. So excited to get into that. So the platform has been received incredibly well by different leading brands, of course, by our community as well. Before we dive in deeper, Brianna or Ty, why don't you give us, maybe in your own words, a little bit of an overview, what the platform is, what it's making possible, and perhaps also where the blockchain component comes in.
Brianna, you want to start?
Sure. So really simply, TYB, when we say make your community a growth channel, it's a end-to-end community management platform for brands to directly engage and reward their fans for taking a lot of valuable actions that so many of us already do when we engage with brands. So that can be everything from sharing on social to writing a review to attending an IRL event. And so the value proposition or the excitement on the brand side, which is what we all love about the blockchain, is really owning your data and owning that interaction and being rewarded for that. On the brand side, the value is understanding and seeing customers and being able to present and create a more fun, personal experience because of that.
And our belief is that really the future of brand building is two-part. It's about co-creation, so empowering your kind of most loyal fans and consumers to help influence and shape essentially how your brand evolves, and then incentivization. And so today, community is on Instagram, for example, and your fans are pushing like, but they're not getting anything for essentially that loyalty or their contributions. And so what we're starting to see is when brands can incentivize with collectibles, brand coins, you can create a flywheel around this engagement. And so really kind of the North Star here and what we love about kind of blockchain meets consumer in the brand building space is this idea of ownership. And so it starts today with fans owning these collectibles that live in their wallet that they can redeem for perks or product, et cetera. But over time, what gets really exciting is creating this ecosystem of both brands and fans where it becomes a user-owned network. And so from an altruistic standpoint, we love this future of, fans having kind of stake in the game through true ownership with the brands that they've helped create and build over time.
And from a feature standpoint, from a brand perspective, right, it's quite simple. For the brand builders out there who've been structurally reliant on ad platforms, right, spending 30% or so of their budgets to acquire customers, CAC has risen over 30%, 40% over the last 5 years for all brands, regardless of their scale and size. And so when we say make community a growth channel, it gives brands a chance to replace cookies in a sense and have a direct relationship with their customers first and foremost. Second, to provide an engagement opportunity that's beyond the likes on Instagram and social, quite passive and one-dimensional, or a traditional loyalty where you spend $1, you get $100. And between conversion, right? There's really two binary ways to interact with brand customers right now. We create an engagement and onboarding platform through collectibles where brands can give different experiences, including token gating on their e-commerce site, to have access to cool perks and experience. And that's really the part when you bring the measurement into that from a brand building perspective, you get to connect that engagement to the purchase information and truly make community measurable.
And sorry, guys, I know we're almost
Go ahead.
Yeah. It's interesting because what we've found from a go-to-market standpoint in terms of converting brands into the toolkit today is like very much meeting them where they're at. And so very simply, it's about selling them into this new loyalty or new ambassador toolkit. And so today, how we describe this is brands need an owned community channel that they can coordinate and reward this meaningful engagement that we're describing, standardize and scale incentives, and then ultimately make community measurable. And going back to my experience at Outdoor Voices, this community effort that we ran, which in OV's version was really this offline kind of large format exercise events. And so this could be like a large kind of dance class on a university campus or a large kind of dog walk kind of throughout town. But anyone who came through this community effort was ultimately 4 times more valuable than any customer who came through paid social. That said, it was really difficult to measure. And so what we're hearing kind of from every brand we talk to today and what we really lean into is this relationship history or making community measurable with on-chain data. And for the first time with the Shopify feature, we're able to connect purchase history or transaction data to all of this engagement that we've described. And so really the holy grail today and how we're getting brands on board is through community ROI and making community something that's measurable for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, this is super exciting. I think it's clear that the way consumers interact and are able to interact with brands has changed significantly since any of us has started, I think, in business. To your points, social media has played a key role in that and accelerated that trend as well. Taya, also love what you mentioned, because I think, well, actually you mentioned that, Brianna, the 30% of your budget as a marketing person, that's a substantial number that I'd really like to, use to my best ability. And understanding consumers is the holy grail of marketing or of any business, right? So as a marketing person, I think this is really great because it's going to allow me to optimize my programs. Instead of putting just programs out, I'll be able to take feedback directly from the community and optimize the programs. But I think also what you said, as a consumer, it's great because instead of, just giving your feedback and not hearing back anymore, you now will get tailored perks, so to say, that allow you to engage even more with the brands. So I think that's great. And it also puts the relationship, I think, in a more equal way. So it's not just the brands, it puts really the community first, which I think is super powerful.
So I want to jump in real quick. And
Yeah.
I think, Ty and Brianna highlighted a couple of things, and to distill it for the audience, I think it's important to keep in mind, right? Like what's existed historically are a number of silos or a number of different things that have all been siloed and did not talk to each other and weren't interoperable. And you couldn't use this data with that data, right? So you have consumer spending patterns, you have their social media and like attention behaviors. You have the paid social, the clicks that they do on a website. All these things were managed by different third parties, different silos, different people were aggregating your data, selling your data. Nothing was talking to anything else. So you didn't get a comprehensive picture of what the consumer looked like, what your real kind of user base or consumer base really looked like. You got snippets of different things all together, and you'd have to kind of assess or use some algorithm or something that would give you a score that would tell you, oh, based on these 5 metrics, the assumption is X. I think what's happening here and what the team at TYB is really focusing on is putting it all together, right? So that you know that the person who's angrily leaving reviews online is actually just potentially a troll who's not doing anything, right? Whereas the person who's actually buying things is not engaging. So you inspire the person who's an active customer to engage, and you inspire the person, or you actually can check if the loudest voices that are in the room or even the quietest are the ones who are actually on the other side of that, right? So it puts together, I think, on the marketing side for people like you and for everybody else, a comprehensive dashboard and understanding of what the consumer behavior is, what is working, what isn't, what is just gaining clicks on paid social versus what is converting into a customer, an active customer, and a brand ambassador potentially as well.
Yeah, and I think that like loyalty is being redefined because loyalty has been such, so transaction based, like how much have you spent with me? And now this is a kind of much more holistic view. And what's cool is on the back end for brands, it's really about seeing progressive trust building. So like how many of my customers have engaged in X amount of challenges, right? And so for instance, like product testing, you could take very easily your 100 most engaged or trusted fans and bring them into essentially product testing around a product that's going to come out. And so it really is it's about trust at the end of the day. And that measurability allows you as a brand to understand who not only has spent the most, but who has earned their way into higher and higher tiers of status, which is pretty cool. And then to the loyalty point and on the interoperability piece, we're starting to see brands want to be much more collaborative with synergistic brands, brands that are not competitive. And this obviously becomes such an elegant tech, for instance, for making loyalty points more relevant. And really the hope there is as we make loyalty points more relevant and personalized, everybody from an incremental revenue standpoint starts to go up. And so, for example, in kind of phase 2 of our toolkit, brands can opt in to make their points interoperable or exchangeable. So Joggy is a brand that we have on platform, and we could say, hey, yeah, Joggy brand coins can be exchanged for Parade coins. And really the hope there is taking, I think it's something like 86% of loyalty points go unused today. And that's because, you know, they aren't relevant or personalized. So how do that exchange or that interoperability can make them more relevant? Hey, I need Parade today versus Joggy. And again, that becomes a really interesting future. And then thirdly, TYB becomes essentially the one portal in to your rewards with all of these brands. And so John, like you're saying, right now, loyalty points are kind of, this experience is spread across kind of like individual sites. This is the first time that we're giving kind of the user one place to now go interact with all of the rewards and their brand communities, which is quite exciting.
Yeah, and I just want to double click on that because the from to that we're going technically is with brands having a CDP or a central data platform where they're managing your data. They're hiring really smart people to build machine learning algorithms to understand that if you went to website X this morning, you booked a trip to country Y, then putting together an algorithm to say that you will, with this probabilistic attribution percentage, respond and click on this ad and ultimately convert to purchasing something, right? That's a very tops-down transactional relationship that these ad platforms have, you know, conditioned brands to build currently. Where we're going to, and the value equation is both on the brand side and the user side. From a brand standpoint, when you allow for token gating via collectibles, where you have your collectible signifies a certain status or steps you've taken to become an ambassador of that brand, the brand can say, you can have access to these specific products on our site. So for example, Loverboy launched recently their new spritz drink, first and foremost with their community about 2 weeks prior than the general public. So they had access early because of the status that they had in the community. And then most importantly, I think on the user side, in terms of value proposition, that's my dog all over, is the users, you then can allow in terms of who can see your data, who can see your engagement footprint across the internet. And you get to decide, like I see a future where cookies pop up and they say, would you like to license your wallet, your engagement, your status to this brand? And there's a really lovely value exchange that becomes decentralized through the blockchain technology.
Yeah, no, so this is really great. I think there's a lot to unpack there. So I just want to take one step back, and maybe you already answered this a little bit indirectly, but from your experience, from what you've seen so far, maybe illustrating it with some of the use cases that you've seen, how can the right digital collectible programs deepen this brand customer relationship that we're talking about? So maybe, I know I've been on the other side, I've worked with you guys, so I know some of the brands that you've worked with, but if you can illustrate an example and maybe what it has resulted in.
Yeah, I'll start with Joggy, and then Brianna, if you want to click open the tool maybe and show. So Joggy is one of our brands on platform. And this is Joggy, it's an energy drink. The vision for Joggy is essentially to replace Red Bull with clean, plant-based, better for you energy. And so Joggy launched on platform last year, and with its 2,000 fans essentially brought, or community members, that all have this little animated Joggy Doggy collectible on chain in their wallets, they essentially have been part of an 8-month energy drink co-creation engagement. And so everyone who has a collectible, a Joggy Doggy collectible, has gotten the first iteration of this drink and then been involved in kind of this continued quest, essentially giving feedback on things like flavor, feeling, carbonation, and all of this is viewable by the 2,000 Joggy Doggy collectible holders. And so they have access to this co-creation and have gotten to essentially test every iteration, where everyone's focused on how, you know, over the course of a year, are we going to make the best in class energy drink that then can go live across Amazon, et cetera, at the end of this year. So it's been a really cool effort. And then really, as we go live with distribution with this refined energy drink, we already have this built-in kind of distribution group that, you know, can talk about it on social, refer their friends, go submit reviews on Amazon, for example. And so that's really, you a relevant example of what this co-creation can look like. And it's gone quite beautifully. The energy drink is much better than what's out there. I can attest. Brianna, you want to add more color?
Amazing. Yeah, I'd love to search if it's all right with you all. Can I click open?
Yeah, let's jump right into it.
Okay, awesome. And so for those of you that are on your desktop or mobile and you want to follow along with what I'm doing, I've just, the URL here is getjoggy.com. This is Joggy's e-com site. For all brands on platform, they'll have a link. You can see join Joggy's community. I'm already logged in. If you're logging in for your first time and joining for your first time, you'll have a chance to join and claim your first collectible. I think we're on the blue Joggy Doggy collectibles right now. You'll simply do a two-factor identification, sign in, and you'll be in 30 seconds. So we'll see you here when you get here. I can see, cool, there's other team members. People are hanging out here. I can see their wallets, see what other brands they're into. There's ongoing challenges. So there's an integration with TikTok. Right now, Joggy is saying anytime that you tag at GetJoggy on TikTok, you get rewarded for 50 coins. Cool. These are a lot of the challenges that I've completed. So when you get the onboarding, you'll kind of go through a flow that'll onboard you to the brand. You get to know them. There was a community Zoom recently that a bunch of people joined to talk about the future of the brand. You can introduce yourself in chat, earn coins for doing that. You can check out cool Spotify playlists. And what's rad is when you respond, you get to see how everybody else is responding and you can see their comments and things like that. Ty mentioned the energy drink. There's tons of R&D in terms of understanding what an experience would be with a particular product feature, right? Share a photo of your Joggy Energy test can. You can see everybody's hanging out and participating, seeing what that looks like. And then, right, I've just earned all those coins. And so I go to my wallet. The collectible can have utility, meaning I can offer certain tiers of collectibles, different discounts on products or access to events. I'm going to use my coins because I think the ERC20 side is the most interesting and fun. But for my Joggy, right, I have 336 coins. I'm going to redeem them. We have my exchange rate here. Let's say, how many should I do, Soch? 250, right? I've got 12 bucks of Joggy, continue, confirm. And I get a discount code that I can come back to after I authenticate. I can come back and use at that getjoggy.com e-com website and get 12 bucks off of new product. That's pretty much as simple as it.
It's the coupon, but offered in a fun and personalized way, basically.
Totally.
Like a self-earned coupon.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I mean, think
not
about
just like throwing things in the mail or an email. Like you earn this, and when you earn something, you want to spend it, right? It's not someone giving you something for free and you're going to throw it in a drawer. It's like, oh, I spent this money or I did these things. I earned something. Let me go use it. It's very sticky.
Yeah, from a brand's perspective. Oh, go ahead, Ty, please.
I'm just like, it's really cool to see. We launched this a month ago, I think, and people are using it. Like seeing redemption go up pretty significantly to us means it's working, and you guys can tell like it feels like a game. So I think what we're hearing from brands and fans is that we've very much obfuscated any of the kind of blockchain or crypto feeling away from this. And so it's very intuitive. It's very Web2 feeling. It feels familiar. It feels like a game that you're playing. And so from an adoption and usage standpoint, like people are using it and redeeming, which is really cool to start to see.
Yeah, and just adding on that in terms of things that are familiar for the brand builders and the audience, right? We advise a lot of our brands, start with your promotion budget, right? If you're using 5-10% of your marketing budget for promotion, which you get an email, right? They spin a wheel and you get an email. Why not get to know them? Run them through a demographic survey. What are you into right now? What games are you playing? What music are you listening to? What do you love about our brand? What kind of events, what kind of people, what kind of conversations do you want to be a part of? That's way better than me knowing that you went to these 3 websites this morning and hoping that I have a AI ML scientist smart enough for me to target a brand that you're going to click on and convert on, right?
No shade to the marketing people, but I fully agree.
And so the other thing just to mention is this tool is really designed to be when a brand needs action from their community, like this is essentially meant to send a request out and you get the full force of your community taking that action. And so we work with a number of beauty brands, well, a rapidly growing list of beauty brands, all that are in Sephora. And there's two things that are top of mind for them. More reviews on Sephora for their brand. It's significant from a conversion standpoint. And then Sephora really wants brands to be driving traffic in store. And so this tool, like very, very nicely can prompt, those beauty brands, communities to do both those things. And so we're really starting to see, and what people like is you get that full force of the community effort with a single kind of prompt, which is quite cool.
Yeah, and we're launching more to come. I know such we're working on this, but we're launching sort of a 2.0 of one of our amazing features that enables brands for the first time to connect IRL participation with their digital online engagement. So now I can know if you went into Sephora and you tested and tried a product of mine as a brand, and then, oh, wow, so it also wrote, participated in our monthly UGC challenge in terms of a before and after pick. And I can get a sense of your behavior and interaction with the brand, which before I haven't had visibility to that.
And what becomes really cool over time as we start to run more communities through this programming is we can start to, from an ML perspective, say, hey, we're going to sell you essentially like a quarter's worth of what we call quest or community programming. And with predictability, we can start to say, from a business outcome standpoint here's what you're going to see as you run your community through this quarter of programming. And that becomes so cool because, in the past, and myself included, as a brand builder, I've been very kind of instinct or faith-based, and now starting to be able to lead with data and real facts around this experiential funnel will net this business outcome is a pretty bright future for brand builders.
Yeah, it feels, I'm using your app and I'm obviously, a little bit biased here, but it does feel super user-friendly. I would suggest you try it out. So obviously, Brianna and John and I breathe the blockchain world, right? This is what we do all day, every day. You, on the other hand, you meet with a lot of consumer brands that may be new to blockchain the moment you step in that door when you're pitching your product. So really curious to hear, and I'm sure a lot of people in the audience be curious to hear, in your opinion, what is the value of blockchain for brands? But also, what value do brands see in blockchain today? And maybe if you can even add to that, what are some of the challenges these brands face when it comes to incorporating Web3 into their strategies? Yeah,
like Ty mentioned, we really obfuscate a lot of the Web3 language. And again, that's not to shy away from it. It's a point on Web3 as a phrase or a word is not a word that drives an inherent value proposition. So we focus on defining the brand problems to solve, and then we focus on defining and communicating the value proposition that blockchain enables. It often doesn't, like we all know, for any of you of tech builders out in the audience, we often don't lead with the technology when we're marketing a solution. We talk about the value proposition. So on the brand side, like we said, brands are structurally reliant on ad platforms and don't have visibility to that engagement data across IRL and digital engagement. They're also quite reliant on a personalization, or the CEO agenda, for example, of a brand right now is really around data personalization and then transaction-based loyalty, usually rooted in a CDP, which is a central data platform. And so what blockchain does on the brand side is, right, you can envision a world of what Ty was talking about with all these beauty brands, where, there's a subnet dedicated to beauty engagement and behavior. And that as an industry, we can see and understand how consumers of beauty products want to engage both offline and online and measure that. becomes a much more elegant database where if you're a visual person, you think about a CDP, a centralized data platform where it's all held here. I'm using SQL or other ML tech to dip into it and measure. All of a sudden that becomes decentralized and the user owns the data and is checking in with the Subnet as a validator and say, yep, you're allowed, you can have this experience. Now that shifts over to your question around the blockchain and the value on the user side. Similarly, the Web3 or blockchain, we market our product to 99% of consumers or users or players that don't have a MetaMask wallet, right? And so for them, it's not about having a wallet or having a Web3 experience. It's about interacting with a brand in a new way. And then most importantly, owning that engagement and that experience where all of a sudden, instead of me just getting served content and served information, I get to allow what information I'm served. And in the future, perhaps exchange, value and money on that side as a user. I get the power back in terms of my data, my experience versus brands giving that to third-party app platforms.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that insight. I mean, that's awesome. And I love that you lead with the solution to the problems that some of these brands are facing first. And blockchain is it's obviously essential, but it's in the background, right? That's I think what true adoption looks like ultimately.
Yeah, I always used to say Web3 is adopted when we stop talking about Web3. For example, when I'm in pitch meetings, no one's asking me if we build on Ruby on Rails or Python, right? It happens in the background and the experience is more interesting because of it.
Absolutely. So I, of course, have to ask this question, but can you walk us through your decision of why you chose to build TYB on Avalanche and also for, I guess, its digital collectibles and the coins or the coupons that you're using?
Yeah, of course. I'll start. So like one thing top of mind when we were starting is we're really focused on this Gen Z, mostly female. I think that'll change, but consumer who's like wildly focused on environmental considerations. And so that is something that is, Avalanche that's been your strong suit is kind of the environmental language and consideration. And so we felt comfortable kind of like leading with that when we really went to market. From a gas fee perspective, like the efficiency in terms of cost with Avalanche is what's made this interaction possible. So with ETH, like the gas fee wouldn't make kind of brand coin exchange possible. So that's been another piece. And then the subnet technology becomes more and more interesting as we think about a brand like Sephora and the many brands that we have on platform potentially staking kind of on their own subnet. And so those are kind of the three main things kind of going into this that were really awesome. And then as we've gotten to know your guys' team, you've been fantastic partners as well. So Brianna, you want to add anything?
The tech is there, right? And what we need, as Ty mentioned, we launched in November. We started building in November of 21. This was pre-merge. So it's important for us in terms of the ethos that the project was originally built on, and you were the most effective technology that had the same value of sustainability that was important to us. And then the people becomes the foundation of that. So you, John, everyone that we've been working with, it truly feels like a project we've co-created together.
Amazing. And switching gears a little bit, having some questions for you for Avalanche, John. Similar question, but from your perspective, what makes Avalanche a suitable chain for digital collectibles and programs like TYB? What value does Avalanche add and capabilities does it create?
First, I'll take a step back and talk just about, I think, blockchain in general, and then I'll dive into Avalanche, of course, why I think we have the most value to bring. Ty and Brianna have hit on so many points that I talk about on a regular basis with clients, with enterprises and institutions as well, right? A common issue that we have is crypto people build crypto products for crypto users. And that's great if you want to continually cater to the same couple 100,000 people or whatever that spend their life online all day doing stuff in Web3 with tokens and NFTs and all this great stuff. But once you get out of the bubble that we live in, and you talk to people or go out and touch grass and you start mentioning tokens and NFTs, you lose people's attention, right? Like people are like, okay, great. Like the eyes roll over, particularly now, right? Given just the market and everything that's happened over the course of the past year. So when you stop focusing on the highlights and you focus on the technology, that's what matters, right? So to Brandon's point, right? Nobody, like when you turn on Netflix, it doesn't say Netflix powered by AWS. AWS is what enables Netflix to build whatever it is on top and then do everything else. So the blockchain, in essence, what it allows for is a 24/7 ledger that allows people to connect things, right? Connect value, transact value. Web 2 was the transfer of information. Web 3 at its core is a transfer of value, right? It's a global decentralized digital economy. And when you're trying to reach people, not just in one time zone or in one jurisdiction, you want to have that global market, right? You want to have it be decentralized. You want nobody to be kind of the gatekeeper owning your data, your information, or whatever else, and having it be siloed. So at a basic level, blockchain enables exactly what TYB is trying to do. And I think where the market's going to ultimately shift to, given everything that's been happening over the past several years and people's data and privacy and information and everything on that end. Secondly, most importantly, right, is the abstraction away from the crypto stuff, right? It doesn't need to be called a token. It could be a point. It doesn't need to be an NFT. It could be a collectible. It doesn't need to be any of those things, actually. It could be whatever you want to call it. It just happens to live and breathe and transact on a blockchain. So at a basic level, that's the benefit, right? And that's the benefit that I think a lot of enterprises, institutions are now starting to see. A lot of brands are now starting to turn to. Because for the longest time, they tried to jump in backwards, right? We talked to people and they would be, we want to build XYZ and this, and oh my gosh, and this is going to be the best, blah, 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 10 minutes later, but on blockchain. Like that's not the way it works. Blockchain enables what you want, not you're going to find something to fit it in. And we've seen this historically, shifting to Avalanche. We've seen this historically with a lot of applications that have had to alter or edit what they are, what they want to do to fit the single chain or the single platform that was available at the time. Avalanche's biggest benefit, of course, among very many, is the flexibility to build whatever you want, right? Whether on main chain or to do it on a subnet, right? To build an application that fits, to use the infrastructure that fits the application that you want to build. But when it comes to, I think, why is it the best for loyalty and digital collectibles and why Avalanche thrives? I think first and foremost would be the finality, right? So Avalanche is the fastest blockchain measured in terms of time to finality, and meaning the second that the transaction hits the chain, it's finalized and done within less than a second. Nobody's going to transact in loyalty and points and whatever you want to call it if they're going to sit there and wait for a wheel to spin for 6 seconds or 6 minutes. It's just not going to happen. Like you can't be the technology of the future if you take longer than what exists today. We need to be as quick. Or as seamless as Web 2, right? So without that, forget it. Like it's already a non-starter, and Avalanche is the fastest in that regard, and it just happens right away, right? Usually the websites and the APIs take longer than the chain itself. So we're really excited about that. Second, I think ESG, right? Sustainability. Avalanche is, well, first, it's, in terms of decentralization, we're the second highest decentralized chain. But usually when you talk about decentralization, sustainability takes a hit, or speed takes a hit, or everything else takes a hit. But with Avalanche, we are the most green chain measured in terms of dollars transacted or secured or transactions done. We commissioned this study last year. Everybody loves to say they're green. Everybody likes to point to certain, things that they come up with on their own. And of course, everyone's going to be biased in their own favor. So we reached out to 2 gentlemen at MIT and Technical Institute of Munich. These are the guys that did the initial Bitcoin carbon footprint report. And we told them, hey, we want to do a study. We want you to do a proper study, an academic study, measure the chains, right? Measure our footprint so that we can point to real science and not marketing, jargon, with all due respect to my marketing friends. And say this is a fact, not an assumption, like most people in this space love to do. So in that study, they found that, of course, Bitcoin used like 8.5 million US households worth of carbon. Ethereum pre-merge was about 1.6 million. Now it's become like over 2,000. Sorry, I don't know why. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
My Siri just started. Siri's responding to me. So Ethereum was a lot. Now Ethereum's around 2,000 US households. Proof of stake for the most part isn't a universe of its own, but Avalanche stands apart at being around 46 US households worth of carbon. And we just commissioned a new study, which is, I think, as favorable, if not more favorable than it was last year, which continuously shows that the Avalanche protocol, the Avalanche consensus, and everything that we do is green, right? This is supposed to be a technology of the future, and it can't be as unsustainable as what exists today or as brick and mortar. You can't replace the past with something that's as unsustainable or more unsustainable than what existed for decades previously. It's just counterintuitive and just silly. So, whether it be finality and sustainability, these things matter, right? You need speed, you need it to be green. These things matter. They matter to brands. It matters to users. It matters to communities. And then finally, I would say just interoperability, right? Like what TYB is building today is they're able to do on Avalanche. And what they intend to build in 6 months from now, or a year or 2 years from now, is possible on Avalanche, right? That's not the case if it was a single monolithic chain. That's not the case if it was something else. So, the flexibility of Avalanche's architecture, whether it be on mainnet, to connect to move to a subnet, to connect to subnets, to connect to other brands that have their own subnets, that interoperability really creates a network of blockchains, which creates just a network of value being transferred between brands, between chains, between whatever it is. And then it just enables the use cases that we really want to see thrive in a Web3 economy, not just the same old stuff.
Yeah, thanks for that background. I think you gave us a good crash course in Avalanche one-on-one there, John. One thing I also want to ask you, and you also touched on this a little bit, but similar to Brianna and Ty, you're also talking to big enterprise. So what have you seen as far as enterprise appetite for innovative brand loyalty programs like TYB or brand experimentation with digital collectibles?
Yeah, it's really exciting. I mean, at the end of the day, the problems that we've been talking about today on the brand side are ubiquitous in the sense that they don't discriminate against category, size, or audience. So every single consumer brand or brand that has an audience and touches users is thinking about, how do I know my customers better? How do I provide them an experience that's more engaging and more sticky? And how do I deliver value in terms of the product I'm selling? So the really exciting thing on the enterprise side, for those familiar with two global best-in-class loyalty programs at Starbucks and Nike with Odyssey and .swoosh respectively. For so long, right, brands that had the investment and the ability to build technology like we're talking about today to get ahead, that wasn't available, right, to smaller companies that were building and growing. And so what we're offering for enterprise as well, that aren't Starbucks and aren't Nike and haven't invested the dollars to build their new evolving loyalty platforms, this is the same similar technology. If you're an enterprise out there and you want to launch something akin to Starbucks Odyssey or something akin to Nike.swoosh, we can get you started tomorrow. You can leapfrog and join the best in class and be a part of the future of brand building. Don't miss out like you did, right, waiting for Instagram to become what it did. Start now, start early.
John, I'm curious what you're seeing in kind of your enterprise combos.
So thankfully, I'm not seeing that long thing that we saw during the bull market and the hype of we want to do all this, but on chain, like it was like trying to fit. Now it's the opposite, right? Now, I think what you're starting to see is really cool ideas that are different, right? And when people ask me, oh, what's the killer app for blockchain? I say it doesn't exist yet, right? Like everyone's just tried to recreate what already exists with a little tweak here or there. But I think we're starting now to see that, because in a bull market, great ideas and bad ideas all kind of get the same amount of attention, and people don't get innovative. And, some of the best things that have come out within Web3, like DeFi or whatever previously, we came out of bear markets or quieter times. So I think enterprises are now starting to take a step back and say, and companies that say, how do we use this technology to benefit something new? So like I was talking about earlier, right? So how do we use this technology to automate back office functions and make our operations faster, more cheaper, and easier? How do we get the customers involved or the clients involved in a better way? And then in doing so, on the BD side for us, our number one job is education more than anything else, right? It's teaching people what's possible. And I think we're starting to see that shift. You guys are the best evidence of that, where people get it and they get that you can use this technology for new things and for novel things and for things that are changing. And then once people use it, right? So Brianna, when you showed that demo, right? You just log in, you have a magic wallet, you have a wallet connected by magic, it's easy. That then becomes kind of the reverse flywheel, right? Where people go, oh, what is this wallet thing? And they click on it and it takes them to an explorer. And they're like, oh my gosh, I could see what I just did. And I could see that I bought this thing from this person. And they start to teach themselves. And then they start to become interested in what's possible. And they talk to other people about what's possible. And then that person can come up with a great idea, right? These are the network effects that this technology really needs, I think, to get to that next level, because it's been so siloed within the same people arguing over the same 4 or 5 different things on Twitter all day. You need to take it past that and either abstract it all away, and those who care will listen and learn. And those who are interested will take inspiration by the big things. So what we focus on a lot is a ton of use case, is a ton of like billboard use cases or marquee use cases, you guys in particular. On the brand and loyalty side, you'll see what we did with SK in Korea, right? So SK is the second largest conglomerate in Korea. One of their divisions, SK Planet, is the information and communication technology arm. They run a program called OK Cashback. So as opposed to what we do in the States or anywhere else where different companies have their own rewards simply siloed away. And what you guys are doing is connecting all these things, right? That's exciting. That's kind of what happens in Korea, where there's one nationwide loyalty program, hundreds of thousands of locations and tens of thousands of merchants with a single loyalty. And then that becomes interoperable. And then you start to say, what can be possible here, right? You can stake the token to get the discount like we saw. You can get to the front of the line of a new merchandise drop. You can do all these things. And what becomes cool is that we have something now, they have a subnet coming. You guys have your application. There might be a Korean brand that wants to break into the US. So now they tap into TYB. And that's possible on Avalanche, because previously with enterprise chains, you have an enterprise chain, it goes in a silo and you never connect to anything else, right? Might as well not use a blockchain at that point, right? The interoperability is the key. So we're starting to see, and I'm starting to see a lot of excitement and innovative ideas of what's possible, right? How we connect different industries, different use cases together, just like you guys are starting to connect the different parts of marketing and brand and loyalty together. And once you start connecting that thing on your end, and we start connecting bigger things on the higher level, you start to see that, interconnected global economy really start to spur, and this technology really start to be used for a lot of new different things rather than the usual stuff.
I want to share a visual real quick, because with the market where it's at, one thing that's refreshing is not seeing all these brands just go sell a bunch of NFTs and then like the speculation and kind of hype around that. And I think what we hear loud and clear is, that way of entering kind of the NFT or blockchain world from a brand perspective is very risky. And so we've built kind of this 3-phased kind of approach where it's really around value creation today and progressive decentralization. And so really kind of the North Star here is building this ecosystem of true community ownership, where, for example, the next Nike can be truly community founded, owned, and run. But phase 1 is really where we're starting, where it's, again, this new loyalty and ambassador, introducing brand coins and collectibles with NFTs and smart contracts, and really allowing brands to create kind of their own reward economy, and the users starting to unlock real value through perks, access, et cetera. And so this phase 1 is really where we're starting to see adoption happen. And again, it's engagement and behavior that people are already familiar with, and then just starting to lay this engagement layer of the internet with blockchain that brands can start to transition to what we call community integrated commerce, coming off of direct to consumer. And so this phase 2 becomes interesting in that it becomes value share. And so we're not here yet, but what becomes exciting is as these users start to have collectibles in their wallets, brands can start to increase essentially the incentive mechanism, whether it be revenue-based rewards or royalties based on what you've essentially contributed to. And then over time, we start to introduce a TYB token, and that's where both brands and fans essentially can own a piece of this network. But I wanted to show this because we've been very intentional about the phasing, and progressive decentralization has been key in our conversations to really de-risk essentially a brand starting to play in the Web3 and blockchain space and get the benefits of it without kind of the risk that, you know, we'd see from speculation and is this a security, et cetera.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing this. I think we're going to have you guys back, obviously, for a second session. There's a lot more to come for our partnership. Lots in the works, so excited to see that partnership evolve. One closing question, I know we're almost at time, that is kind of open for you or for John. Any bold predictions that any of you have about the relationship of how brands and digital collectibles will grow and evolve, how that relationship will grow and evolve?
I think one of the more interesting things is this idea of evolving, you know, what we've known as a website or e-com site as a primary place for engagement, and truly unraveling or opening that into more of a flat experience across the internet, and brands being able to create experiences in different places as users, the way users go, right? How I experience the internet every day, how might a brand become a part of, enhance, and reward me for that experience that I take with them that feels very lovely and elegant, just like when you go into a mall and a store 10 years ago when you went onto an Instagram, surprise and delight. I think the frontier for brand builders is surprising and delighting in the new customer engagement online. And what I love about collectibles is you can know me and I can know you, and you can give me different experiences along that journey once, and if I decide to give you access to my wallet.
I get excited about value creation on the fan side. And so as we think about your membership collectible dynamically updating based on your contributions and your participation or your proof of fan, the ability for me to, you know, potentially sell that over time and make money, I think becomes really exciting. And we say brands and fans building and winning together. And coming off of the direct to consumer kind of world and model, particularly VC backed, I often question, like, how many founders and fans are winning in this model? And so again, we call it community integrated commerce, but I really get excited about the value creation potential and the winning kind of on both sides of the equation here from a brand and fan perspective.
I would say, you know, building on everything Ty and Brianna said, I couldn't agree more. But it would be kind of linking everything, like what I'd like to see, kind of different things coming together, right? Things that were previously disconnected or didn't have a connection coming together. But it's really the loyalty, it's the assets, but also payments, right? So integrating everything together, where you buy something, it triggers a loyalty or reward, it happens all together, just kind of reducing that friction, making things a lot more integrated and easy, from purchase to loyalty to community, all being together across multiple different brands, across multiple different industries. I think you could start to see you know, people's digital identity take over, in the sense of being a wallet, right? So it's not your name attributed to your email, attributed to your PII, your personal identifiable information. I think that's where we start to go. And I hope that's where we start to go. That's kind of the benefit here of what we're doing. And I think on the Avalanche side, you're going to start to see that, right? Because you're going to start to see that between institutions and enterprise and gaming and decentralized finance and NFTs and everything else that's happening across this network, that'll start to have interconnectivity with interoperability with different assets and different use cases and collaborations within the community that start to mature and build value for the user, and allow for a great kind of digital economy to thrive.
I love that, John. I love all of our our visions of this future that we're co-creating. And I think so for everyone listening and thinking, I want to stay involved or I want to track this subject, it's really interesting to me. I would say, the easiest is check out our ecom website, tyb.xyz. You can join as a fan. You can see all of the brands that are live on platform. You can join their communities. You can join the TYB waitlist, get on our newsletter, hear more information about how we're thinking about this. You can also join as a brand. I'd love to talk to you if you're like, oh man, I want to learn more how this could work for my brand. Join as a brand, reach out to us. We'll be in touch. Our socials, TYB on Instagram, TYB on Twitter, and Ty's got some solid TikTok content up as well. So go follow her and TYB there as well. So we love to interact. We'd love to hear feedback, hear questions. Thank you for giving us access to your audience.
Absolutely. Really, really excited to have you here. And I can't wait to see these visions come to life. Thank you, John, Ty, Brianna. Thank you for building on Avalanche, and obviously a lot more exciting developments to come. For now, thank you all for tuning in. This recording will be available. Well, the webinar is recorded, so it will be available on our YouTube list. And Brianna, I have a few brands that I might have to send you that I hope to see ASAP on the TYB app as well.
We love that. Who do you want to earn from? Let us know.
I will. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye. Thanks,
Bye.
bye.